Saturday morning, October 7th, 2023. It's shortly after 6 a.m. and folks are gathering here at the old Plattsburgh Air Force Base Oval for the final honor flights, North Country honor flights of 2023. There'll be veterans for 2 plane loads today gathering here very shortly in the rain. We drove up from Champlain, Judy Castine and I, Calvin Castine, and there was rain most of the way and sometimes actual downpours. So our speed limit varied from 45 to 55 depending on the on the amount of rainfall coming down. Hopefully, this is, as I said, shortly after 6 a.m. Hopefully the hard stuff will hold off till after 8:30 when everybody is on the bus. The program here is scheduled to start on time at 7 a.m. And a lot of folks are gathered over there right now in the rain. And in the past several honor flights, there have been a parade of vehicles coming in with the majority of the veterans arriving at the same time. Whether that'll happen today, because so many of those vehicles are motorcycles, time will tell. My guess is they will attempt to do it. So temperatures in the mid-60s, not a bad day temperature-wise, but we do have to put up with the rain, and hopefully by the time the show gets on the road, we'll have some sunlight on the situation. We've made our way in closer and getting a little view under the tent here, under the big top, where the veterans will sit during the ceremony. Certainly not ideal conditions. In past years, when they were having single flights instead of double flights like today, they were able to bring this event inside in inclement weather. But now with the number of veterans they're sending off in this double flight situation, that's not a reality as far as finding a suitable location to do that. Don't want to go too far into this without remembering our friend Alan Goodman, who obituary is in the newspapers at this point in time. We see Alan many times at the honor flights. Haven't seen him this year, but he passed away within the last week or so. He was in the circulation department at the Plattsburgh Press-Republican, but he would come here with camera in hand, and he took a whole lot of photos over the years of these North Country honor flights send-offs. So I want to make sure Alan's name was mentioned and remembered here at this honor flight on October 7th, 2023. With the weather situation, they're working hard. I got up shortly before 5 a.m. this morning to be able to get here in time. Some of these honor flight volunteers get here before 4 a.m. So they work hard to make this all possible. They've set up this tent here. We see Greg Lee under there and Larry Ebert working hard to get this set up so that the folks on the PA system will be protected. Normally we get at the far end when the ceremony begins, but today we might camp out right here with our umbrella and get a different view for today only. And speaking of photographers, I see David Brown here. David, retired postal employee, has Been to just about every honor flight, and he's great at taking photos at these honor flight send-offs. Here a toddler in the background, or in the foreground in this particular case, complaining about the situation. If I were a toddler, I'd be complaining about the situation too. Well, we were hanging around hoping to find the head man, Barry Finnegan, available to chat with us for a moment or two. And all of a sudden we heard the sirens. And the sirens mean a parade of vehicles and cycles and veterans is on its way, so excuse us as we back up as we walk here in the with the camera bouncing, because we want to get every vehicle that we can if they start coming through here. Usually we can hear them quite a while before they get here, but we want to make sure we get them, and I think we can. Shortly after 6:25 a.m. they're coming around the oval. I believe they start up by the Hobby Lobby store up in the North Country Shopping Center, Plattsburgh Mall, whatever that's called. Hopefully have an angle here when they come through. Trying to keep the camera dry, so we're underneath a friendly tree plus our umbrella. These sirens 4 times a year do wake people up in the early mornings here in Plattsburgh on a Saturday. Once in a while you get a complaint. For the most part, people appreciate what's going on here. Those sirens were loud enough for you. In addition to all the fire departments, various police departments, including the City of Plattsburgh, New York State Police, Clinton County Sheriff's Department, Border Patrol, Customs and Border Protection. people giving of their time. Giving of their time to come here and give these veterans a proper send-off to Washington, D.C. They go to Washington, D.C. to see the monuments, the World War II, Korean, Vietnam, and all the other points of interest, cemeteries. An event-filled day for the veterans. Bus. And the vehicles continue to keep coming here. We're hearing music, so we try to talk over the music because sometimes we're blocked by copyrighted music. So we put this up on YouTube and all of a sudden the audio is blocked, the whole video is blocked. So we have to be very careful about copyrighted music, whether we're putting it on cable or putting it on YouTube. This will wrap it up, just a little over a 6-minute parade of non-stop vehicles coming in here to the old oval at the former Plattsburgh Air Force Base. Some of the veterans were arriving in the police cars, and others are in this bus. This bus is loaded with veterans. Looks like our friend Wendell Hughes, who's been sick, under the weather the past few days, is here braving the elements. Veterans getting off. Over here is back to us. Tom Halleck will be the MC. Been doing a great job since he took over as the MC here. So many people worked so hard to make all this happen. Well, let's check our watch here. It's 6:36 right now. Starting to get a little brighter out here. The rain is coming down harder than it was 15 minutes ago. Various veterans organizations that are here and help make all this a suitable send-off. It started honor flight, as we try to mention every time, as a way to send the World War II veterans to Washington to see their monument. And as the World War II veterans are fewer and fewer of those as time has moved on, and the Korean veterans were not much younger than the World War II veterans. So they've evolved into mainly Vietnam veterans, and So many of those Vietnam veterans mentioned that when they returned home, they were told to take their uniform off so that those anti-war protesters wouldn't be harassing them, because many of them were harassed because they had served our country and risked their lives in Vietnam. The hippie generation, the anti-war generation, be anti-war without being anti-veteran.
Hey, how are you, sir? Everything good? I'm trying. Yeah. I'm trying. So long. All right.
Stand clear. Coming back. Coming back.
The bus is backing up.
Back. Come on back.
The bus is backing up. I don't hear the beep, beep, beep sound there. You need that beep, beep, beep of the vehicle backing up. It's a former school bus, so I'm sure at one point it had that beeper attached. Well, again, we're going to try to find a suitable location here. We're going to camp out in a location so that people won't be surprised when they see us in that spot. We want people to get their place based on us having our dry spot so we can record this. We're proud to say we've been to every one of these honor flight send-offs, and we hope to keep coming until we've run out of veterans to send, because everybody has had their chance to go. Okay, we've once again tackled him here to spend a moment with us, Mr. Barry Finnegan. There's always something that causes a little problem here and there.
Well, you know, just when you think you got everything figured out where it's going to be real smooth, and then the weather hits and throws a little wrinkle into it. But look at the people. This is amazing.
It is amazing.
And the amount of bikers that went and picked these veterans up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Are you kidding me? Dedication and devotion that just, it's so heartwarming to see all that. And those bikers are amazing every time, but this is really exceptional. And the people that are all here, just incredible. So it might damper things a little bit, but not much.
You know, on the way down here, we're driving up from Champlain, and at times it was raining like this, and at times there was outright downpours. So
yeah, we're hoping
so those bikers, I'm glad I wasn't on a bike.
Well, you know, there was a bunch of people talking when they came in this morning in their cars. They almost slowed down and stopped.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was raining so hard. So
I was going 45 for a good part of the trip here.
Yeah, so let's hope that doesn't hit us, because right now it's coming down, but it's not all that bad.
Yeah,
so
it's tolerable.
We'll hope it gets even better during the ceremony, and everybody has a good time, and these veterans get what they've got coming to them, and they've had that coming for a long time. So
people say I should get what I got coming to me, but so far I've been able to avoid it. So
that's a different kind of you got coming to you. No, we've got some great people coming in this morning, and our ceremony's all set up, ready to go. We kind of shortened some things up, and we'll kind of speed it up a little bit, get everybody out of the rain. But the main thing is these veterans realize what kind of crowd here in the North Country come to show their respects and the honor that they show them. So we're excited about it, and it's going to be a great day.
So this is flights number what?
50 and 51.
Holy cow, that's a lot of flights.
I'm really having a hard time digesting that. It just doesn't seem possible.
And you've probably got almost enough for next year's flights already on your waiting list?
Right now, we're going to have 30 people that won't go next year because of the length of the waiting list. If we take 120 next year like we did this year, so it's at least we're within, they haven't waited more than 2 years. You know, for a while we had a waiting list through COVID that some people waited up to 4 and 5 years. And we didn't like that situation. So
and you lost people because of that.
No, that's the part that we can't accept. Because we can't send enough flights and people pass away on us. That's unacceptable. We avoid that at all costs.
And you said 120 that you're going to send, but there could be somebody who's not on that list yet who's going to have a priority for whatever health reason, or all of a sudden a World War II veteran shows up or whatever.
That's our variables we don't know. You know, the World War II and the Korean guys are all over 90 now. And then the ill people, that's what makes it difficult. You can't see that coming whatsoever. So
that doesn't matter if it's one of the recent situations, or
no, a veteran is a veteran,
and
and
got a health situation and they want to go.
Yeah.
You guys are going to send them.
No, we don't take any chances on waiting until it's too late. So, yeah, we send them and get them their day, and that way, whatever happens after that, great.
Okay, we have to talk about it every time. Fundraising, it's an ongoing process. These flights aren't cheap.
No,
and
no.
you got the executive board salaries to pay. I've heard you make the same thing as all the other board members combined. Is that true?
That's true. Combined, all of them.
Which is the big zero.
I just, I don't stress that enough when I'm talking and things like this, that this is an all-volunteer organization. Nobody gets anything out of it except heartwarming, great feeling, and we sleep good at night because we're doing something good. And this whole team that we've got assembled puts all this stuff together, and nobody ever complains, nobody ever has a problem with anything. It's just a team effort that makes everything work perfectly. And to be an all-volunteer force, that's rare.
Yeah.
A lot of you see different donations coming in from different organizations, and there's some great nonprofits up here.
Stand in front, you hear it.
We are on a situation where we're spending more money every year, and it's tough to keep up. So we're kind of on a downward slope as far as what's left at the end of the year, and that scares me. I'd hate to see this program ever get to a point where we really need some money to pay for a flight or whatever. We don't want to get in that position.
Come here and pass the basket.
Yeah. No, we're just, we've been fortunate up until now, but between inflation and having to fly charter instead of the airline that was at the airport, everything is so expensive that we're fighting to keep up.
So if people want to get involved either with fundraising or volunteer help, what should they do?
Best thing is go right to northcountryhonorflight.org, and the website will brief you in on everything that goes on, and give me a call and we'll talk about it. We have our meetings the first and third Wednesdays of the month down at the Keysville VFW, and the best way is come to a meeting and see what goes on, and something will pop that you say, hey, I'd like to help in that area there. So that's our best way. Come to the meetings and watch what happens.
Okay, and there's also a North Country Honor Flight Facebook page.
Yep.
The right direction, going to there.
We update everything that's going on, any events upcoming, and any fundraisers that are upcoming. So we got a lot going on, and that's a great avenue to see what's happening.
Okay. Anything else, Barry, you want to tell us here? I know you're not busy at all, but
we know it's going to stop raining here any minute, and we're going to have a great ceremony, and those veterans are going to have a fantastic day in Washington today. It's going to be beautiful down there too.
All right, thank you, Barry Finnegan.
Thanks, buddy.
Salamando. The American Legion Post 912 from Rouse's Point, raising the flag. The rain is pretty much let up for the moment here. There's steady drizzle. It's a 7 a.m. sharp start every honor flight. An amazing crowd as we're talking there with Barry.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Honor Flights number 50 and 51. It's incredible that we actually got to that number, and the support you guys give us is just incredible. People just keep coming. More people keep coming. So we're awfully enthused to keep doing this in the future. And just want you to know, by the end of today,
we'll have sent 780 North Country veterans on a day of a lifetime. You know, we do a lot of these ceremonies, and there's a couple people that never get mentioned that are very crucial parts of it. First off, Post 912, American Legion from Rouse's Point over there, raising that flag every morning. Thank you very much, guys. You guys have been awesome. Since day one, they've been doing that. And also, when we come to attention every morning with revelry, and when taps is played, Lori Salamando Porter playing the trombone. Thank you very much, Lori. Incredible group of individuals out this morning that were on those motorcycles that went to pick up these veterans and brought them all down to the mall this morning. Just a great effort and so dedicated, and we can't ever thank them enough for what they do no matter what the weather. Their slogan is, nobody took a day off during the wars, and they're not going to take a day off and showing gratitude for our veterans. So thank you, all of you bikers over there. The nuts and bolts of any honor flight is the flight leaders that organize these people and get everybody in that tent and have everybody in their jackets and their shirts and their hats and have all the information that we need and make sure we're going to the right plane. And we had two incredible people do it for the third time, and they're getting even better every time. They were remarkable the first two times. This was just amazing. Mike and Lori Parsons. And where's our Beatman Town girls? Over here. We'd like to say thank you and recognize the Beatman varsity soccer team, who recently held a bottle drive and raised $1,079.
One nickel at a time. Nice job.
Thank you very much for the effort. We appreciate that, and good luck the rest of the season. I'll hand this over to the professional, Mr. Tom Hollick from Mountain Lake PBS. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Good morning, everyone. So great to see everyone. Please stand now as we welcome Tally Dool for the singing of our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Tally Dool from Aux Sable Forks. Thank you very much, Tally. Please remain standing now as we welcome the Saranac Middle School National Junior Honor Society for our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'd like to take a moment and welcome some of the dignitaries and elected officials here with us this morning. New York State Assemblyman Billy Jones with the 115th District. Plattsburgh Town Supervisor Michael Cashman is here this morning. We also have members from the Clinton County Legislature here. We would like to welcome Robbie Timmons, Calvin Castine, your poets here on the camera, Dave Desile, and Wendell Hughes. And also would like to welcome Andrea Dumas, the mayor of Malone, is here with us this morning. And also Mayor Chris Rosenquist from the city of Plattsburgh. Okay. Well, at this point, we are going to ask Gary Liberty to come up, and he is going to pay tribute to the honor flight veterans that have passed since our last flight.
Good morning, everybody. How we doing? It's a fine, warm day here. Good morning. Yes, we want to pay tribute to the veterans that we've lost since the last flight. We have two of them. One from Flight 23, John Zelazny, and from Flight 39, Ralph Cudworth. At this time, we'll play taps, and then we'll play for the trumpet. So please stand and face the flag as we begin. Thank you. May God take their soul, and may they rest in peace.
So I think we'll go ahead and do a closing prayer at the end. All right. It is now my pleasure to introduce Director of Operations Janet Dupree, who is here with bios of our veterans going on the flight today.
Another moment the rain has let up. I'm able to lower my umbrella.
Once again, I'm given the honor of introducing the veterans on flight number 50. Flight leader Mike Parsons. As always, please show your respect for these veterans as I tell their stories. Gary Barcombe, U.S. Air Force, 1958, 1962, Cold War. Suffering the death of his brother in a car crash, Gary, age 17, enlisted. In basic training at Fort Dix, Gary joined the security detail guarding Elvis Presley. Gary trained at Fort Gordon in military police and security. Sent to Germany, Gary met his future wife. Needing approval to marry, took 6 months of red tape, including a letter to the Pope. On their wedding day, Gary and Gisela had 3 ceremonies: Catholic, base, and Burgermeister. That's really getting married. They celebrate 65 years of marriage this year.
That's a lot of
Returning
years.
stateside, the Cuban Missile Crisis delayed Gary's discharge for 2 weeks. Gary Barkholm. Lawrence DeGroff, U.S. Air Force, 1966-1970, Vietnam. At age 19, Larry enlisted, completing basic training at Lackland Air Force Base. Assigned to Cape Charles Air Force Base Station, Larry was trained in welding, a skill that served him well in civilian life. Sent to Da Nang Air Force Base in Vietnam, Larry worked mostly at night. Larry's memories remain private about his time in Vietnam. Larry recalls a sergeant and 2 privates being shot on their way home. Larry remembers Vietnamese kitchen workers used their hands to pull garbage out to feed their families. Larry completed his service at Whiteman Air Force Base. Larry said cherry bombs at 20 cents each couldn't get him in trouble. Lawrence DeGroff. U.S. Navy, Thomas Forgach, U.S. Navy, 1965 to 1969, Cold War. Tom enlisted in the Navy, going to basic training at Great Lakes. Upon recovery from 2 months of pneumonia, Tom went to Norfolk Naval Base for air carrier deck experience on the USS Independence. Tom volunteered for the best duty patrol squad in Brunswick, Maine. For almost 3 years, Tom alternated between Iceland, cold, and Azores, warm. On 10 12-hour shifts, Tom documented icebergs tracking nuclear submarines and ships. Receiving warning the aircraft had been locked in by enemy fire, quick maneuvers took only 200 feet of water to avoid missile strikes. Thomas Forgach. As a side note, I'll mention that Tom and his wife got married last Saturday.
Oh, newlyweds.
Ronald Fox, U.S. Air Force, 1963 to 1967, Cold War. Enlisting at age 17, Ron had basic training at Lackland, followed by aircraft mechanic training in Amarillo, Texas. The second day, the base locked down when President Kennedy was assassinated. At Shepherd Air Force Base, protesters fired rounds into the base. Ron was a B-52 assistant crew chief at Plattsburgh Air Force Base. In Operation Chrome Dome, flying over Alaska, Ron was in a B-52 strategic bomber aircraft armed with thermonuclear weapons. The chief shut down TV. Lights out at 10 p.m. Ron put a horn toad in the chief's bed. A scream followed. The next day, they spent cleaning the flight line. Ronald Fox. Richard Godfrey Jr., U.S. Air Force, 1947-1953, Korean. Richard enlisted, sent to Lackland Air Force Base for basic training in refrigeration, gas, oxygen, and acetylene generators. Ordered to the Philippines, Dick was sent to Korea. With no work assignment, the Air Force searched for him in the Philippines. Dick was in a tent 3 miles from the front line. One night, Dick was hungry, so he walked a mile to the mess hall. Upon return, Dick found the tent destroyed by mortar explosives, killing his mates. In temporary barracks, a second lieutenant arrived. He and Dick took off in a B-25, lost an engine, and soon lost the second engine. Grabbing a radio, he located the raft in the Pacific in 4 to 5 foot swells. Finally, at his assignment, Dick, riding in the back of a truck, was hit by machine gun fire, threw him into a rice paddy, severely injuring his legs. In the Philippines, Dick's best adventure was meeting and marrying his beautiful wife, Sally. Richard Godfrey, Jr. Lincoln King, U.S. Army, 1959 to 1962, Vietnam. To avoid the draft, Lincoln enlisted in the Army to keep his feet on the ground. Of course, the Army sent him aboard ship for 24 days. A day after leaving home, Lincoln traveled by bus, train, and plane. On the way to basic training, he met up with a couple of locals. While on leave, the group missed a flight to Fort Lewis. Lincoln, private first class in charge, had to make up a day. Sent to Korea, Lincoln also traveled to Japan. Returning stateside, Lincoln served out the rest of his time at Fort Devens. Lincoln's best day was October 26, 1962, Discharge Day. But Lincoln said the salmon missing in Seattle get honorable mention. Lincoln King. Walter Cuxer, U.S. Air Force, 1963 to 1992, Vietnam. Ordered to Vietnam, Walter told his bride he'd see her in a year. In his first year, Walt flew over 200 missions, as all his MOS assignments were with bombs. Weapon mechanic, gunner, weapons maintenance technician, weapons maintenance superintendent, and aircraft armament manager. In jungle survival training, Walt was dropped with a parachute, canteen, and machete. Given 12 hours to avoid capture by Negrito natives, capture was not an option. On the way back to the base camp, he slept in a tree. Walt trained in a prisoner of war camp for survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. Walt received the highest level of awards: Distinguished Flying Cross with 2 oak leaf clusters, Air Medal with 8 oak leaf clusters, and way too many to mention. For years, Walt did not allow Vietnam material in his home until his son Eric found a 1966 Time Life magazine and asked his dad if that was his picture. Eric is proud to be the guardian for his dad on today's flight. At the wall, Walter, with a special place in his heart, will honor 87 veterans, including 42 who were killed when they served together in Vietnam. Walter Cuxer. Robert Manchester, U.S. Air Force, 1968-1988, Vietnam. Robert enlisted and was assigned to aircraft maintenance. Leaving Loring Air Force Base, Bob volunteered for hazardous duty in Thailand. Bob and his family were stationed in Guam during the evacuation of Vietnamese who lived in Quonset huts in a fenced-in area. They stared at blonde, blue-eyed children. After time in Spain and England, Bob re-enlisted while in Maine. Moving to Plattsburgh Air Force Base, Bob's duties were towing, refueling, fixing engines, and working on the alert pad. For 5 years, Bob's family celebrated Thanksgiving dinner on the runway. Robert Manchester. Paul McGee, U.S. Navy, 1955-1958, Korean. Paul was hungry, and he decided to join the Navy. Paul took his oath 2 hours before the war ended. At boot camp in San Diego, Paul slept on an Army cot in a gymnasium. Assigned to the USS Philip, Paul had on-the-job training. Assigned to the USS Feckler, the 7th Fleet cruised in the Far East, serving the Taiwan Patrol, a carrier task force radar warning ship. After the USS America, Paul finished with the USS Gerke. Paul traveled the world: Hawaiian Islands, Midway Island, Japan, Okinawa, Formosa, Hong Kong, Guam, American Samoa, Acapulco, Panama, Lima, and his favorites, New Zealand and Chile. On leave, Paul rented a surfboard to catch the big wave. Instead, he caught a mouthful of sand as the board beat him back to beat him back to shore. Paul ended his surfing career, and he headed to the safety of a bar. Paul McGee. Joseph McNichols, U.S. Air Force, 1970 to 1996, Vietnam. Joe graduated from college and was drafted. After officer school, Joe attended C-130 pilot basic and specialized mission training, followed by survival and jungle schools. Joe was assigned to Tanzanite Air Force Base, Vietnam, as President Nixon pulled 10,000 troops, sending Joe to Taiwan. After 330 hours of flight time in Vietnam, Joe had a day or two in Taiwan. Joe landed in places that didn't exist and situations that never happened. Sent to pick up Marines, B-52s bombed both the airways. The plane landed, the Marines jumped on. Assigned to fly Bob Hope, Joe regrets his roommate flew Rochelle Welch, Suzanne Plachette, and Joey Heatherton. It really doesn't seem fair. After 18 and a half years at Plattsburgh Air Force Base, Joe spent 2 years in D.C. consolidating 13 federal agencies into the National Intelligence Agency. Joe landed in Vietnam as his daughter turned 6 months old. Jennifer is her proud dad's guardian on today's flight. Joseph McNichols. Amos Plouffe, U.S. Army, 1955-1958, Korean. Amos, known as Gus, left school after 8th grade and worked in the mines. Gus enlisted, went to basic training at Fort Leonard Wood, then infantry training at Fort Dix. A bad knee kept Gus from his desired airborne division. Gus went to England, France, and Germany. In Newbury, England, with the 801st Engineer Aviation Battalion, Gus participated in rebuilding the airbase. While in England, Gus met his future wife, Sandra. Gus needed approval to marry, and approvals were rare. With access to the CQ's stamp of approval, Gus got around the red tape. No one noticed the marriage license had no signature. Gus lost a stripe, but this year, Gus and Sandra celebrated 66 years of marriage. After returning home, Gus served 27 years in the National Guard, retiring at the age of 60. Amos Plouffe. Donald Thornton, U.S. Army, 1955-1957, Cold War. Don's friend, Bob Duquette, said, "Let's join the Army." Don wanted a different direction in life and was on board. At Fort Knox, Don completed basic tank and intelligence training. Don volunteered for an assignment in the Far East. Stationed at the Demilitarized Zone, the DMZ, with the 21st Infantry Regiment, a group of tanks ran into a North Korean outpost. Don, on the last tank, quickly turned around and got out. After a year running through the rice paddy fields, Don had no appetite for eating rice. 6 years later, Don was notified to prepare for a Cuban invasion. Thankfully, it was averted. Donald Thornton. Robert Wolstenholme, U.S. Army, 1966-1972, Vietnam. After graduating from college with a degree in biology, Rob was drafted into the Army. At Fort Dix, Rob scored third out of 1,000 in a science exam. Assigned to Fort Baker, 6th Army Medical Lab Division. In the lab, Rob processed specimens including animals, urine, and blood. A crew would go on a Russian fishing vessel, providing medical care, ignoring communication equipment to be addressed by another division. Rob was influenced by his grandfather, a state assemblyman. The meanest person Rob met in the military was the Selective Service lady, Robert Wolstenholme. Stephen Wood, U.S. Air Force, 1968 to 1988, Cold War. Stephen went to basic training at Lackland, onto AIT at Chanute for missile technician training. Steve was the rocket man. Steve deployed for 2 TWI simulations in Missouri and Texas. Steve flew as a B-52 crew member for simulations using a bare base for training and preparations. Steve moved around the country, assigned to Air Force bases, Grand Forks, North Dakota, twice, Ramey, Puerto Rico, Ellsworth, South Dakota, Robbins, Georgia, Pease, New Hampshire, ending at Plattsburgh. Retiring after 20 years of service, Steve said, quote, "I'm packing up and heading south." Instead, he stayed in the warmth of his family. Stephen Wood. Give me just a second here. Thank you. We now move on to Flight 51. Flight leader, Lori Parsons. Again, thank you. You're all being great. Let's celebrate these volunteers. Stanley Bilo, U.S. Air Force, 1964 to 1967, Vietnam. Encouraged by a buddy, Stanley enlisted a month after him. Stan's basic training at Lackland Air Force Base, followed by Air Police K-9 training. Stan was assigned to Plattsburgh Air Force Base, working on the flight line. Stan was then sent TDY to England, where he worked on missiles. Ordered to Vietnam, Stan's first dog was sent before him, as Stan followed with a different dog. By chance, Stan met up with his buddy, who was leaving. Stan was off duty one night when a rocket hit in front of the barracks, claiming the life of a friend. Some memories last forever. Stanley Bilo. David Blades, U.S. Marine Corps, 1963 to 1967, Vietnam. David enlisted and chose the Marine Corps because he liked the sexy uniforms. At basic training, Dave and a high school classmate were assigned to the 241st Platoon. Dave went on to infantry training at Camp Lejeune, then to Cherry Point Marine Air Group Logistics. Sent to Vietnam, Dave, a logistics specialist, joined the Helicopter Air Group 16, continuing that support in Diego, Chile. Dave's last assignment was a casual company unit at Parris Island. Dave traveled to Pearl Harbor and received several commendations and medals for his service. David Blades. James DeVan, U.S. Marine Corps, 1967-1968, Vietnam. Jimmy had basic training at Parris Island, infantry combat training at Camp Lejeune, and jungle warfare training at Camp Pendleton. Sent to Vietnam, Jimmy, a rifleman, joined the 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, Charlie Company. Headed to Hill 10 in Da Nang, Jimmy was wounded on patrol. A booby trap explosion destroyed Jimmy's eyesight and inflicted very serious injuries, requiring many back and forth transports between the Da Nang Hospital and the USS Sanctuary. Jimmy received a Purple Heart and several awards for his valor, saying he'd do it all over again. Jimmy's wife says he helps at home, but he can't weed whack near her flowers. James DeVan.
Sounds like my wife. I see weeds. So she's
Deborah
flowers.
Flagg, U.S. Army, 1962 to 1968, Vietnam. Debbie's father served 21 years in both World War II and Korean, leaving powerful impressions on her. As an Army brat, Debbie learned to adapt to change and take advantage of youthful experiences. Before basic training, a local paper printed a photo of Debbie and her father. At Fort Benjamin, Debbie trained in finance and accounting. Debbie went to California and then enjoyed Germany. Debbie traveled to Spain and France, loving the people, the food, and the beer. Returning to Fort Benjamin, Debbie trained as a legal clerk. At Fort Gordon, a compassion transfer ended Debbie's hope of a military career. Deborah Flagg. Samuel Ganji, U.S. Marine Corps, 1966-1968, Vietnam. Sam and a friend Joe planned to join the Navy. Sam developed white coat disease. When doctors took his blood pressure, it went way up. A nurse, no white coat, took his pressure, it was accepted. Joe was in the Navy, Sam joined the Marines. At Parris Island, Sam had basic training on to Camp Geiger for infantry and mechanic school training. Leaving Pearl Harbor and Okinawa, Sam was ordered to Vietnam, serving with the 2nd Division, 8th Battalion. Sam keeps his memories private. Enlisting, Sam asked his father about marriage. Dad's advice, wait until you return. While in service, Sam got a tattoo, the name of Loretta, who he married when he returned home. Samuel Ganji.
Hear a siren in the background. There's a medical emergency going on to our left.
Ralph Hartman, U.S. Air Force, 1968-1988, Vietnam. In 1970, Ralph was deployed to Ubon Royal Thai Air Force Base. It was a busy base, with jets taking off and landing as the ground crew worked 12-hour days, 6.5 days a week. Ralph was a parachute rigger and ejection seat specialist. A pilot used Ralph's parachute to eject the seat and release the parachute. The grateful pilot presented Ralph with a bottle of Jim Beam. Nice gift. One of Ralph's favorite memories is attending the 1971 Bob Hope USO Christmas Eve show, which was spectacular. Ralph retired from Plattsburgh Air Force Base after 20 years of service to our country. Ralph Hartman.
If you were watching that show on TV, you may have seen Bob in the crowd.
Winfred Hodel, U.S. Air Force, 1966-1974, Vietnam. Winfred, known as Butch, enlisted at 18, went to basic training at Lackland Air Force Base, and set his path in fireman training. Butch served as a fire protection specialist and fire protection supervisor at home and in the military. In Vietnam, Butch had a scary encounter as he jumped to safety to avoid being shot by a Vietnamese guard. Back stateside, Butch went to a naval base in Maine, on to California, Niagara Falls, Alaska, finishing his military career at Plattsburgh Air Force Base. Winfred Hodel. Stephen LaVere, U.S. Army, 1965-1968, Vietnam. Influenced by his father's 27-year military career, Steve, age 18, graduated from high school in New York City and enlisted. After basic training at Fort Dix, Steve went to Fitzsimmons Army Medical Center, Denver, where he trained as a medical equipment repairman. On to Fort Leonard Wood, Steve worked on mobile hospital setup, being responsible for keeping every piece of equipment running. Sent to Vietnam, Steve's prior training was essential as he joined a MASH unit that kept Steve very busy fixing equipment due to power surges caused by big generators. Stephen LaVere. Ronaldo Lazardi. U.S. Army, 1955 to 1980, Vietnam. Leaving the University of Puerto Rico, Ray, 18, enlisted. Ray completed trainings and positions, Security Police Tactical Course, Electronics Fundamental Review Course, Airborne Recon Specialist, Security Police Superintendent. Ray served at air bases in Georgia, Plattsburgh, South Carolina, California, Arizona, and abroad, Panama, Libya, Thailand, Vietnam, and least favorite, Turkey. Should I wait?
Have a helicopter flying over.
Ray retired after 25 years of service to our country. Stationed at Plattsburgh, Ray met the love of his life. Last month, on September 17th, Ray and Judy celebrated 63 years of marriage. Ronaldo Lazardi. Kenneth Marshall, U.S. Navy, 1970-1974, Vietnam. With a draft number of 13, Ken enlisted. Completed basic training at Great Lakes Naval Station, which Ken said was the most fun. With no assignment aboard ship, Ken had on-the-job training. Plane handler to crash crew, fireman training, and welding school. Ken boarded the USS Forrestal, traveling to the island of Malta, Greece, Turkey, Italy, and Africa, where they rescued people from a typhoon. The ship provided support to Vietnam with medical facilities for rescue and body return. Ken spent most of his service on foreign seas, saying every day on deck is hazardous. Kenneth Marshall. Richard Marty McAlvin, Jr. U.S. Army, 1964-1966, Vietnam. After 2 years of college, Marty was drafted. At basic training lineup, a casual question, who has a dog at home? Marty was sent to military police training, assigned as a dog handler. The dog handlers arrived in Vietnam with 250 dogs. No one knew they were coming. A tent area was set up for the dogs. Soldiers were told to find their own place to sleep. On guard duty with his dog, too dark to see, Marty stepped on the dog's paw. The dog bit Marty in the crotch. Marty continued to walk his post for 4 hours with blood running down his legs. Now, ouch! Richard Marty McAlvin, Jr. John McDonald, U.S. Marine Corps, 1961 to 1967, Vietnam. At 17, John's parents refused to sign enlistment papers. A year later, John was at Parris Island, assigned as a machine gunner. After basic training, John attended sea school aboard ship, and he learned to fire the big guns. John served under 3- and 4-star admirals and a 3-star Marine general at a top-secret base. John was sent to Cuba to guard the perimeter fence line, by ship to Santo Domingo Harbor during an uprising to protect American lives and property in the Dominican Republic. Assigned to a NATO ship, John traveled to England, Ireland, Norway, Sweden, and Germany. One night, while singing the Marine Corps hymn in a bar room, John was arrested. As fate would have it, in civilian life, John became a New York City police officer. John McDonald. John Naylor, U.S. Marine Corps, 1964 to 1967, Vietnam. John enlisted, went to boot camp at Parris Island, and trained as a field radio operator. In Vietnam, John joined the 5th Battalion, 7th Marine Regiment. John was assigned to emergency medical evacuations of wounded and killed in action soldiers, requiring quick in and quick out action. John, at 5 feet 3 inches, was assigned as a tunnel rat. A rope tied around his ankle, John entered the tunnels, told to destroy tunnels, gather intelligence, kill or capture the occupants, often in close combat. The tunnel conditions were extremely dangerous. In Guam, on his way home, John had $1,500. He ordered steak and enjoyed 5 pineapple drinks. In the morning, John had 15 cents in his pocket and no shoes. John was told he had a great time. John Naylor. Joseph Purtell, U.S. Marine Corps, 1965 to 1967, Vietnam, U.S. Air Force, 1967 to 1991. Joe was inspired by the 3 generations of his military family. Joe went for basic training at Parris Island. The drill instructor said, 95% of you will be dead in a year. Leaving the Marine Corps, Joe joined the Air Force, receiving advanced management and accounting training. As a financial management service supervisor, Joe set up base operations. Every 2 weeks, Joe flew to Egypt. Although he was not the highest ranking officer, the Egyptians would only work with Joe, the money guy. Joe was awarded many commendations, retiring after 26 years of service to our country. Joseph Pertell. That concludes our bios. Let's hear it for these amazing veterans.
Apologize to the people behind me.
Thank you very much, Janet. Thank you everyone for coming. We want to remind you there will be a procession over to the airport, not to the main terminal, but to the FBO building. New York Road to Arizona, left on Arizona down to Alabama, to the FBO hangar. If you would like to join in the procession, of course, the first responders and the volunteer firefighters line the route on New York Road, which we appreciate every time. Remember tonight, 8:30, our veterans will be returning home right back here to the U.S. Oval. We hope you can make it back and provide them with a warm welcome home. We thank you so much for coming out today, for supporting us this year, and we will see you next year in May. And Barry, do you have any final words?
I got one more. Yep. In case anybody didn't hear it yet, veterans, you got one more special thing that happened today to show you how much you're appreciated. If you'll look up, you'll see that Homeland Security helicopter. He's here to honor you guys, and we really appreciate them coming out. That helicopter is going to mirror the buses all the way over to the airport. So thank you. Thanks for coming out, everybody. Appreciate it.
Another outstanding job here under inclement weather. They'll now load the veterans into the two buses. There's the honor flight bus and a school bus, and they will load them up. We're going to get in position for the parade leaving the oval here. Second bus provided by Beacontown Central. It's just a coincidence that Larry Hebert drives bus for Beacontown Central. Because of the weather conditions, the ceremony is a little briefer than most of the send-offs, but still a very, very nice event. Normal situation, they would have had time for Larry Hebert singing about the Vietnam Wall, More Than a Name on the Wall. The Morrisonville group would have been here singing the Red, White, and Blue song, but because of the weather situation, that stuff was put off for today's event. Again, I want to apologize. I had my umbrella put away for most of the ceremony, but it started to rain at the end, so apologize to the people behind me who might have been blocked out. But as I like to point out, I will dry out, but my camera won't, so I got to protect my camera from the elements. Looks like they're almost ready to start the exit parade. Once the honor flight bus moves into position, then we'll probably get this parade on the way here, exiting the grounds. Alright, sirens are sounding. New York State Police will start this exit parade. many people donating so much of their time to give these veterans a proper send-off. Again, this is flights 50 and 51. And if you know any deserving veteran should be recognized as a participant in a North Country Honor Flight, go to their Honor Flight website or the North Country Honor Flight Facebook page. Get in contact with the people at the North Country Honor Flight. Their mission is to honor these veterans. And they've done an outstanding job of it, and they are continuing to do it. So we'll be hoping to send, I believe, 120 in 2024. So they've got about 150 on the list right now. But there are priorities. So if you've got a World War II veteran, Korean War veteran, or any veteran whose circumstances might prioritize them, please don't hesitate to contact. So many of today's veterans are Cold War veterans and Vietnam veterans. They do send younger people from recent combat situations if the medical situation is necessary. Here comes the Honor Flight bus. School bus. A lot of the bikes took off. Some of the emergency vehicles have gone to set up. Some have gone back to their home base, but some have gone to set up along the route. So when this parade enters the what we call the new base and heads toward the Plattsburgh International Airport, there are emergency vehicles set up along the way to pay them tribute. So this will wrap it up. Hometown Cable's look. As we said at the beginning, we've been proud to say we've been at every one of these North Country Honor Flight send-offs. We hope to continue to do so for as long as these flights are happening. We hope to be able to take part and present them to the North Country and the world. Let people know that the people in and around northern New York appreciate their veterans. Flight is at the other end of this little strip here, so the Honor Flight bus, I should say. So once it gets here, we'll call it a day as far as recording this. And as we've said just about every time, the bikers have been so much a part of this tribute. And remember that first flight back in 2013 that actually went out of the Albany airport, and 30-degree temperatures. 90-degree temperatures, those bikers made the trip in the cold from Plattsburgh to Albany. So that's the way it was on this morning of October 7th, 2023. The former U.S. Oval, the Plattsburgh Air Force Base in beautiful downtown Plattsburgh. Thanks for watching. And for those of you who support, viewers supported local television, hometown cable TV, we think is worthy of your support. Thank you for watching.